Hey everybody, welcome back. Haven't made a video for a while, so I thought I'd pop out here in early December, see what's going on in the garden. This is a shrub called Dicroa febrifuga, and it is a hydrangea relative. You can see the resemblance, but those are berries, whereas almost all hydrangeas, or at least all that I know of, get more of a dry capsule, not a berry. And you can see that Dicroa is often evergreen, which kind of sets it apart from most of the shrubby hydrangeas. And here you can see typical hydrangea macrophylla. That's what that looks like in early December. Here's my little baby golden larch. Has dropped its foliage for the winter. I'm expecting great things from this next year, and the reason I put it here is because my Stewardia, even though this is the north side, still gets too hot and crispy in the summer, and I'm hoping the golden larch will grow large and give the Stewardia some shade. Interesting how this hydrangea, this one is called Tough Stuff Aha, is mostly still green, whereas this one, Let's Dance Can Do, has succumbed to the frost like most of the other macrophyllas and serrata hybrids. This variegated Daphne odora is doing its thing in the winter when a lot of other things are a little more subdued. This is Camellia Autumn Rocket, which, as you can see, had a big display of flowers several weeks ago, and then we had some quite hard freezes, even below 20 degrees, which ended those flowers. But there's hundreds more buds that will open if we have a stretch of weather that isn't too cold. Most of the maples are finished up with their winter color. This is my first try with olives in Oregon, and so far so good. Here's one of my witch hazels. This is Jelena or Yelena, covered in buds, but no flowers open yet. Here's our new steel custom built arbor with fence and gate. I think I'll do a dedicated video about this, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. Neither of my new feijoas bloomed this summer. They grew quite a bit and look pretty good, but no flowers, so no fruit. recently moved this sage from the back garden to the vegetable and orchard garden. Looks like it has survived that transplanting quite well. This is sweet marjoram, probably one of the least hardy herbs that I'm growing, and it took a hit last winter and the winter before, but really sprung back to life this summer. The desert garden. I removed the supports from the willow oak, Quercus fellis, cedar posts, and I installed them by each of our wooden gates to act as a stop when the gate is open, and I'll put a hook on there to hold the gate open when I'm needing to go in and out a lot. Hydrangea. I've been saying quercifolia, oak leaf hydrangea, but you know what? Oak trees, typically people say Quercus fellis. So perhaps I should be saying Hydrangea quercifolia, not quercifolia. This is Munchkin, still hanging on to some fall color. I've got two of these shrubs, Lindera angustifolia, species of spice bush. And this plant developed really good fall color while we were away in California, so I never really got to see it. But an interesting aspect is that once the fall color is finished, all of the foliage turns this color and then stays on the plant all winter. I think it's a rather nice color. And then when the spring foliage finally comes out, then this foliage gets pushed off. This was a cistus snowfire, I believe. It has never really impressed me. It has really good ratings. A lot of people think it's one of the best, but it didn't impress me at all, so I'm shearing it down, and we'll be eliminating that. And since this is the desert garden, I'll probably be putting some sort of xeric succulent in that area, maybe an agave or a yucca or something like that. I did put a couple of little agaves in the early fall, and they're not looking too happy. We had over 10 inches of rain in November. They didn't like that one bit. So I'd be surprised if that survives through the winter, but I like to experiment. Some pretty nice color on part of this digitalis. Okay, I'm trying to remember the species. Digitalis obscura, maybe? It has kind of yellowish flowers with brown markings, and it's evergreen, as you can see. Brought my little pot of sempervivums out into the open. I did have it underneath that yellow pot all summer where it was irrigated by the drip irrigation. Now I moved it out here. This is giant gold mine, I think. So one of the larger, newer sempervivums. And it's turned burgundy this winter, but it's supposed to be gold. And it was somewhat gold in the summer. We'll see what happens throughout the winter. Here's the other little agave that isn't too happy about over 10 inches of rain in November. Pelargonium, a hardy pelargonium. Sidioides, I believe. Pelargonium sidioides. Hydrangea quercifolia. Gatsby moon. Cold weather has kind of almost ended this chrysanthemum. But you know what? Straw flower still has some color that is truly amazing. This is Heidi, I believe. Kind of an untested one for hardiness here. But you can see it's covered with flower buds, and a lot of them are happily opening up despite sub 20-degree temperatures several weeks ago. Purple and orange, one of my favorite combos. And the mini Aussies are keeping an eye on me, as they do. There's Kizzykens. And there's Dune. Good boys and girls. Here's my striped variegated fern, which is, as most people are telling me, it's only marginally hardy here. Maybe hardy in zone 9, but not in zone 8. So put it in our covered porch area here for the winter, give it a little more protection. Front patios holding in there pretty well. Haven't seen any major shifting or settling. Plant that I think should be growing a lot more. Ruta graveolens. I believe this is Jackman Blue. Excellent foliage. Gets little button-like yellow flowers. I haven't had any of those here yet, but I planted mainly for the foliage. Since we have this sort of gray-blue teal scheme going on with the house, I think this is a excellent complement, as is the Cedrus Sapphire Nymph and the Cupressus Blue Ice. I think the experts have maybe decided this is not Cupressus anymore, but that's probably the most useful name to use at this point. Camellia Sasanqua, October Magic, Crimson and Clover. Still has some flower buds, but it seems to be a little more susceptible to cold temperatures than Autumn Rocket in the back. As this plant gets bigger, it may be holding its buds up above the frost zone. There's a butterfly weed. Lots of pods. The frost has mostly ended the fuchsias. This is L'Eclat de Magician. Grew vigorously this year, but not a lot of blooming. Hydrangea Zorro, fully deciduous now, but I think those lace cap flower clusters are still very beautiful. And here's my variegated Fatsia with the name Camouflage. Looking really good, but did not grow very much since midsummer. Looks like the Mahonia Soft Caress are mostly finished blooming. These buds really aren't open yet. I guess we'll see what happens if they open or if they're unhappy about the cold. Parodia subequalis, still hanging on to a fair amount of color, as is Hydrangea quercifolia, little honey. Here's my other Lindera angustifolia, which will keep that foliage all winter. What have I been up to? I had 2 maple trees. This is a Acer palmatum. It is a seedling from Crimson Queen that was just grew under my other true Crimson Queen over there. And so I grew this from seed over the last 3 years. Very vigorous. And I had it planted on the other side of the house. And I decided to move it over here because this area is nowhere near as shady as I want it to be. So I'm adding more trees. I also moved a hybrid Asian maple right here. This is Acer Hot Blonde, which I had on the south side in a very hot aspect because it was marketed as tolerating that sort of condition. But it looked really terrible all summer, so I put it over here on the north side. And Hot Blonde is supposedly a hybrid between Acer oliverianum, kind of an obscure species, and Acer japonicum, or Acer palmatum, sorry. They think it's hybridized with a yellow-leaved variety of Acer palmatum. Hot Blonde. So I'm hoping for better things over here on the north side where it's a lot cooler, so the foliage hopefully won't scorch the way it did on the south side. This is Camellia Jury's Yellow. It really bloomed spectacularly last year, and it is heavily laden with buds, so I'm expecting the same thing this year. Starts in late winter typically, and then goes for many weeks after that. But all bets are off with the climate weirdness. It might start a lot earlier. This is a new little variegated Pittosporum that I planted in late summer that did really well. I'll try and put the name of it in the description. The name isn't coming to me right now, but it's definitely a Pittosporum tennuifolim cultivar. Ilex crenata geisha. Got another one of these in the front garden. It's been growing pretty vigorously underneath Coeur australis. All right, what else we got going on? The frost ended the foliage on Edgeworthia, which is normal. Schefflera delivei. I think they also changed the genus on this. But once again, rather than confusing people with the latest changes, I'm going to stick with Schefflera until I get the other one into my head. But other than the foliage drooping during cold weather, it is really impervious to our winters here, or at least it has been in other people's gardens, whereas many other broadleaf evergreens have been taking a hit. Those hydrangea macrophyllus are finished for the year, not much color left. The Dennis, really impressed with how much frost that one has taken. The flowers probably are gonna finish up fairly soon, but plant is still green. Heuchera Forever Purple. You maybe have noticed I've got these stakes in a few places around the garden. That's marking places where I wanted to put bearded iris. Some of the varieties we ordered weren't available or something, so we planted some of them, but not all of them, so the stakes remain. These are my lingonberry plants, and they really didn't set much fruit this year. You can see a few on there. Maybe next year. Two different varieties, so they're supposed to produce better with the different clones, similar to the way blueberries produce better with different clones. Here's a magnolia hybrid called Coppertalica. You can see the beautiful coppery undersides of the leaves and flower buds. All right, that's all for now. See you next time.